when you're out of armor support and air support, what tactics are left to you? Looks like Russia is reaching deep into its bag of tricks for more tactics. And this report from Radio Free Liberty. Let's get into it. Okay, we are going to have to censor some stuff out. This is in Donetsk, all right? I want to point this out first off so that we got to acknowledge where Donetsk is. This is significant because it's not actually on the Soledar-Bakhmut axis. When we zoom in, right, Donetsk is actually this area here. And one of the things that it's not visible now, but usually what you see is Russia launching offensive operations to try to sort of leapfrog through this MO4 highway, this river here near Krasnohova, and this river here near Marinka. Their objective is to get a little build-out breathing room for their capital city, Donetsk, as well as trying to, I suspect, encircle this town of Avdiivka that's kind of sort of formed this bow in Russian lines. So that is Russia's meta objective in all this. And it's worth pointing out that by most rumors, the forces fighting in Donetsk are actually the DNR and LNR forces. This is a proxy militia backed by Russia, but they're actually notorious for being more poorly equipped than the Russian military or even the Wagner group. So they point out there's some footage here. I'm going to censor it out, but there's footage here of the correspondent, and you hear some shelling happening pretty close. Apparently because they were spotted by a Russian drone. So they retreat into Ukrainian armed forces trench works. You can see here he's in a very narrow trench. And yeah, here he is. One of the soldiers is joking with him. Yeah, they have drones too. And he points out that the shell landed at the road he's looking at. Now, what I want to point out that's really interesting about this, first off, of course, he has a very modern helmet, but this jacket, this is a Gore-Tex ACU field jacket. It's the Army, we always used to call it ACU. It's actually called UCP, or Universal Camouflage Pattern. It's a digital camo that the Army has phased out. You can see they're taking some of their old stores and surplus and sending it to Ukrainian troops. Yeah, he's in an entire actually UCP uniform. Valentine's Day is coming up, and maybe you need a gift for your spouse, partner, significant other, or e-girl crush. For me, it's been a wild year for my wife and I wanted to get her something special that has meaning to the both of us. Thankfully, today's sponsor, Holtzkern, is out here saving Valentine's Day. They have a huge variety of men's and women's watches, jewelry, unit cases, bandlets, sunglasses, and more. And Holtzkern's Austrian-based designers use natural materials like wood, stone, and marble to give their products a unique look and feel. I got my wife a gray slate unit case and earrings made from rose gold and walnut. When we first got together, we would camp and hike in the Shenandoah National Forest, which had huge towering walnut trees. So the earrings have a unique part of our story together. But even if you don't have another person to celebrate Valentine's Day with, take what you would have spent on an overpriced meal and get yourself a slick new watch from Holtzkern. They have men's and women's styles. I'm partial to the hybrid automatic cyclonic in marble and maple, since my grandfather's farm in upstate Pennsylvania had these maple trees that would change colors every fall, so it feels like a part of my history. So get that special someone a unique gift this Valentine's Day, even if that special someone is you. Click my link down below and use code VETERAN15 for 15% off your order. So they're hustling again. It shows them in a secured trench. He's with the 79th Brigade, and what's shocker too is that this is a very young kid, but he's wearing almost head to toe ACU. I think this is even this ball cap or this fleece cap is the ACU gray. So again, when we talk about military aid, there's an important point to be made here. And that is when we say, oh, the U.S. military sent, $100 million of aid to Ukraine. In a lot of cases, it's equipment like this, right? This is outdated UCP pattern stuff that's sitting in Army surplus warehouses. It can't be issued to troops because we don't wear that camouflage uniform. It's been discontinued. And so while we as taxpayers have already paid for it in the US anyway, it's not being used by our military. And so what we can do in order to get the most value out of these uniforms that we paid for and produced is we ship them off to our allies, in this case, Ukraine, where you can't argue with the return on investment. The UCP pattern served U.S. forces basically the duration of the Iraq War and the war in Afghanistan. And now surplus is being sent to defeat the U.S.'s geopolitical rival, Russia. So while everyone hates the UCP, it's tough to argue with its combat record.
Ховайся поки.
So they're saying that they are launching what they're calling sneak attacks without artillery or armor. They are relying on stealth to approach the enemy. Though, again, I'm going to point out that there's a lot of this is crossing over no man's land. This seems terrifying and does not really lend itself to sneaking. They're in sort of a crude formation. We've talked about this. The likelihood of anti-personnel mines mean that you kind of have to operate like this. You can see these guys are just moving very quickly in a line straight down this area. No cover, no concealment. This is not really sneak attacking.
Полем по балці просто заходила на позицію. Тобто, відповідно, такою несподіванкою, як то кажуть, несподівано, без шуму старалися пройти і таким методом зайти на позиції. Наші бійці почули це просування, побачили противника.
Yeah, this is the problem. You can actually launch this is actually not a bad method to get very close to enemy lines. But what you would do instead is approach at night. You would approach or depart very early in the morning just before sunrise, then launch your attack at sunrise very close to the enemy's positions. But that requires training, coordination, and a good working knowledge of military tactics. It's not clear that the forces from the DNR and LNR, who are like Russia, largely comprised of forced or forcibly mobilized troops.
Відпрацювали по ньому, противник зазнав втрат і
Yeah, we're going to have to censor this part out. This is just them getting artillery called on them. And you can see, what you don't see is that one artillery round, we're going to say knocks down WIAs at least, like 4 troops. They're not moving in a formation. They are subscribing to the belief that a lot of untrained soldiers have that by running really fast, that's going to compensate for poor formations, a lack of tactics. The truth is that any trained soldier will tell you that you have to move deliberately, slowly, and carefully, and that is going to give you better returns than running across wide open space, charging at the enemy, especially with no armor or artillery support. And of course, it points out that you can't really verify this sort of thing, but you're inclined to believe these guys. And eventually, when the shelling lifted, they went back to a safe location. Anyway, guys, that is all I had for you for this one. It's very, very typical of this conflict. And it's in some ways, I think it's a sign that perhaps the DNR and LNR are not getting the sort of armor support or even mechanized infantry support that we're used to seeing. It's possible Russia may be conserving it for some sort of planned offensive in the future. It's possible. It may also be simply that Russia doesn't have it in its arsenals and is being much more conservative with it. But why then you would launch an attack without adequate support is beyond me. Again, in NATO doctrine, we often don't launch attacks without a clear objective. And sometimes that objective is just reconnaissance or probing, or taking a specific area. But generally, we try not to launch attacks that we don't think will succeed. It's a waste of resources to do non-effective tasks. So anyway, guys, that's all I had for you for today. Thanks again to our sponsor, and I will see you guys in the next one.